Is weird, odd, strange, or just plain bizarre is really your cup of tea? Then the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast will give you that fix. Can't believe it? Well, listen for yourself as we deliver the strangest news you definitely won't find on CNN or Fox. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the GSMC Weird News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Moog. I am broadcasting live from Cape Cod because I'm a fancy person. Just kidding, not fancy at all. And I have this amazing hotel room that overlooks the Cape Cod waters, which is a bay, not exactly the Atlantic Ocean. And it is an amazing view, and the ocean sounds lovely, and there's a man outside blasting country music and shouting on the phone. He's wearing an ankle monitor, drinking a Monster energy drink, chain-smoking cigarettes, and getting baked like a lobster. Seriously, I know I'll bring this up again and totally forgot that I already told you about this at some point, so just be prepared. It's fine. So welcome all you weirdos. What have you been up to this week? Tell me. Or don't. Yeah, you can't. I have no interaction with you guys, and it's bugging me. I want y'all to comment on our Instagram posts. Talk to us. Tell us stuff. I want way more interaction, but it just doesn't happen because I'm alone in a hotel room. Oh, and I was going to tell you about this hotel room. It is like such a gorgeous, amazing view, but the hotel room is garbage. But I don't care because I'm here for the view. It's just pretty funny that I paid tons of money for way fancier hotel rooms, and this one is better. I think I've already complained about this before. This one is better because the view is amazing. The sound of the ocean, you get to wake up to the sound of the ocean. It's like 20 feet from my window, with an unobstructed view, just perfect. So, what have I been up to this week? All kinds of things. Going to Cape Cod, giving my mom my car because I'm a nice lady. And I was going to tell you something. Well, I forget what. We're going to be talking about all kinds of things. We're going to talk about Keiko, the whale from Free Willy. We're going to talk about him. And in detail, we're going to really hear the story of what happened, the tragic life and death of Keiko. We are going to talk about the smartest animals in the animal kingdom, and I think you're going to be surprised. And of course, tic-tac-toe, where we're going to be talking about, yet again, more animal facts. For example, did you know that sweating like a pig is a misnomer, or whatever it's called, because pigs literally don't sweat. They don't have sweat glands, and the only way they can cool off is in mud puddles. So how dare you paint pigs in this sweaty light when they literally don't even sweat? Huh. Rude. I honestly had things to tell you, and as soon as I start talking, it all goes out the window. I don't know. Maybe it'll come to me, but we're going to start. We're going to talk about some interesting news stories this week, and they're probably not from this week, but we can pretend they are. This week in the world, monk seals are shoving eels up their noses. No, this is real. I can't even make that stuff up. Truth is stranger than fiction. We're going to go to the Washington Post, where the headline reads, "Endangered Hawaiian monk seals keep getting eels stuck up their noses, and scientists want them to stop." Well, good luck trying to tell a seal what to do. I love that the quote is, "Make better choices." Like these scientists want to give these seals a talking to. Sometimes people just can't get out of their own way. I know what that's like. Do you know how many cookies I eat when I have like a tub full of cookies? I can't get out of my own way. Sometimes when situations are really stressful and I get more all worked up and keep kind of not escalating but keep engaging, I can't get out of my own way. And now we have seals with eels, and they cannot get out of their own way. So we see this picture of a very relaxed looking seal with an entire eel up its nose. And of course, because I'm nice, I'm going to post it on our Instagram, and you get to look at it because this is worth looking at. So, Claire Simeone, yep, she says, quote, "It's just so shocking. It's an animal that has another animal stuck up its nose. And ain't that just an accurate description of what it is? Simeone wasn't the only person stunned by the photo of the seal and its unusual facial ornament that was shared earlier this week on Facebook by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Hawaiian monk seal research program. So yeah, they are endangered eels, and they cannot get their crap together to get these eels out in their nose. So it's gone viral, and it's drawing attention to the rare phenomenon that continues to baffle scientists, such as Charles Littman, who is now begging the endangered seals to make better choices. How? How is he begging? Literally how? It just doesn't make sense. How do you? I guess he's saying it out loud to himself and the world, but that's not how seals work, my friend. So about 2 years ago, he led a monk seal program and woke up with a strange email, and the subject line was just, quote, eel in nose. And it said that they found an eel in a seal's nose, and they asked if they had a protocol for that, and there wasn't one. Of course there's not. Who makes a protocol for eels in noses? Well, like I'd like to know that protocol, and then I will personally have a protocol if it happens to me. Better safe than sorry. So in this particular case, quote, there was only maybe 2 inches of the eel actually sticking out of its nose, so it was very much akin to the magician's trick when they're pulling out the handkerchiefs. And it keeps coming and coming. So yeah, if the eel is only 2 inches out of the nose, that means there's like another foot or 2 or 3 inside the eel. So since then, there have been reports of at least 3 or 4 cases of this happening recently. And in all the cases, the eels were removed successfully, and the seals are fine. But, quote, we have no idea why this is suddenly happening. You see some very strange things if you watch nature long enough, and this could end up being one of these little oddities and mysteries for our careers that 40 years from now we'll be retired and still questioning quite how this happened. Weird news. Researchers have already determined that it's not the result of a human with a personal vendetta against eels and seals. Can you imagine if it were just a person going around pranking, trolling eels and seals? You know what? If you can think of it, it exists. It's possible. And we just thought of it. So it's possible. So this expert, Littman, said he does have a few theories about how an eel could naturally end up in a seal's nostrils. So the seal's preferred prey, which is fish, octopus, and eels, they hide within coral reefs to avoid being eaten. And since the marine mammals don't have hands, they have to hunt with their faces. Yeah, I always forget about that. Like dogs and cats and seals have to shove their face into things just mash it into their face and chow down. So because they don't have hands, they have faces, they hunt with their faces, and they stick their faces into the coral reef holes, and they'll spit water out of their mouths to flush things out. So I guess that's like they're blowing intense streams of water, flushing things out, and they do all of these tricks and by shoving their faces into the holes, and perhaps they hypothesize that a cornered eel decided the only way to escape was to just swim up the nose. And young seals are not adept at getting their food, so they were forced to learn a tough lesson. So this is one of those theories. But Littman said the theory doesn't really make much sense. So he says, quote, they're really quite long eels, and their diameter is probably close to what it would be for a nasal passage. And that a monk seal's nostrils, which reflexively close when they are diving for food, are very muscular, and it would be very difficult for any animal to push through. Okay, yeah, I actually just read that seals completely close off their nose when they dive. So that makes it even more strange that this is happening. So he says, I struggle to think of an eel really wanting to force its way into a nose. The other way eels might be ending up in the nostrils is through throwing up. Aha, yes, that makes sense. Similar to how people sometimes accidentally end up spewing food or beverages from their noses, that could also happen to seals who often regurgitate their meals. That actually makes sense. Okay, I imagine they eat the eel whole or don't chew it or suck it up like a spaghetti, and then it's just in their stomach, writhing around, and up it comes. Is that it? So Litton says, it doesn't seem to be possible that a long fat eel would end up going through a seal's nose rather than out of its mouth. The most plausible theory is that monk seal teenagers aren't all that different from their human counterparts, and they are naturally attracted into getting into troublesome situations. Yeah. I think that we've solved it. I'm going to go with that theory. But Lennon goes even further and says that he thinks that seals are mimicking each other. They see one teenager barf up their spaghetti through their nose and the other one did it. Now, I don't know if I'm going to go with that, but hey, he's apparently an expert. But just listen to me, not the freaks and losers, me. Okay, so no seals have died or been seriously affected by eels. That's great. Good. So that's the story. It goes on, but I don't think we need to hear much more. We got the story, and I love it. Seals and eels. A marriage made in nostrils. Now, a story I love this week is a little weird, but a little great. A Massachusetts professor went viral this week after putting a crib in the office to help a grad student with their infant daughter. And that is how it should be done. This is how we should be supporting parents to get through their careers. I don't necessarily know where the line ends. Do we put 20 cribs in a professor's office? I don't think we do, but this is great. This is a simple act that has made one life possible, one person's life of academia possible, and I'm for it. So the quote from Dr. Troy Littleton is, "We need to be solving these issues, the challenges parents face in the workplace, both in academia and as a broader level in society in general." So yeah, this is Professor Troy Littleton, who is a professor of neuroscience at MIT. Fancy. Yeah, people deserve to go to MIT and be parents, absolutely. So Good Morning America identified the student as Karen Cunningham and her 10-month-old daughter, Katie. Karen and Katie. Quote, "My favorite new equipment purchased for the lab, a travel crib to go in my office so my graduate student can bring her little girl to work when necessary, and I get to play with her while her mom gets some work done. Win-win." That was his quote on Twitter. So the tweet has captured the hearts of people around the world who have commended the professor for his considerate gesture in raising awareness about the challenges of working parents. And I am actually, I'll admit it, I'm changing the word mother to parents because absolutely, mothers need way more support. Yes, absolutely. And I do think they need more support than fathers, but I personally think this can happen to any gender parent, so I'm just saying parent. So somebody says, quote, "This is what equity and support of women look like. This porta-cot image has made my day. It is not hard if you care to think of inclusive solutions." I love that. Inclusive solutions are going to change the world, whether it's ableism, getting tamped down a notch, racism, homophobia. These creative solutions are going to positively affect all of these challenges, and I am here for it. Now, the other dark side of it, one user pointed out, and this is true, they called it a, quote, "sad substitute for parental leave and daycare." Absolutely. So this reminds me of something I've brought up before, which is when we see those food drives like, 10-year-old girl in Michigan does a peanut butter and jelly food drive so all of her classmates won't go hungry over the summer. And you're like, oh, how great. But this is the other side of it. This is the dark side of it. It just highlights the lack of food support. Why are these kids not having food support? And why is their only solution a 10-year-old solving their problem for them that the government / state / system didn't bother solving for them? And this is a great point. I absolutely agree. That's a great point. But in the face of parental leave and daycare not being an option, yes, this is a substitute. It is a lovely, thoughtful substitute, but it is a sad substitute. Absolutely. But hey, with the light, I'll take a little bit of dark too. At least someone tried. And our final story, let's talk about umbrellas. Yes, really, umbrellas. So I found an article online, and I'm sorry, I didn't tell you. The last article was from Monk Seals was Washington Post, and the other one was people.com. So this one is coming from The Best Life Online, and it's a list of weird stuff. And I just picked out one that was fun. So umbrellas were once only used by women. And I would say, it's so funny because I was talking to a friend this week about umbrellas, and I was like ranting and raving, like, men are so worried about looking effeminate or like a woman or doing anything that's not fully masculine that they don't even use umbrellas. And I was like ranting and raving about it. And my friend said, actually, men don't need to protect their hair or their clothes. They're not typically wearing fancy hairdos and fancy clothes, fancy makeup. So they don't need to protect themselves quite as much. They can get their hair wet and pretty much look the same after they're done. And I was like, whoa, mind blown. Okay, valid point. Absolutely valid point. But I still want to rant and rave because that's what I like doing. So let's read just this little blurb about it. While umbrellas are used and appreciated by pretty much everyone living in rainy places, for centuries they were seen as something only to be used by women. Associated with the fashionable parasols women would carry during nicer days to keep the sun from their skin. And I know for a fact, based on my grandmother and all of her aunties, so that's 2 generations before me is my grandmother, and then a 3rd generation before me is her aunties, so that would be 4 generations ago, I guess. It was very fashionable and important to stay very pale and very white. And I don't know if they had the concept of skincare, like no wrinkles. I don't know if that was part of it. I know that skin cancer was definitely not on their radar, but I think it was very fashionable to be pale. And I know my grandmother said all of her aunties would just 24 hours a day have parasols so they wouldn't get any darkening of their skin. And I don't think it was a racism thing. I think it was a fashionable thing and maybe a status thing to be like, oh, I don't work out in the farm. I'm more refined society person? I don't know. I should just ask her. So it says, by the mid-18th century, the barriers started to fall, and with public figures like philanthropist Jonas Hanway carrying umbrellas during public events, it did change. Soon others took notice of the accessories' practicality, and it wasn't long before men were using them as often as women. And again, they are not using them as often as women. Lies. They are not. And that was what I was talking about this week. So I was right. My spidey sense said there was something that men didn't like about umbrellas because it made them feel like women or effeminate or weak or something like that. And I was right because they were so specifically for women that men felt like women if they used them. So I'm just here to say I was right. You were wrong. Anonymous friend out there in the world. Love ya, but you're wrong. Okay, we're going to come back with some tic-tac-toe. Stick around for that. We're going to be talking about Free Willy, the orca from that movie, Keiko, and their tragic, amazing story. And finally, we're going to round off the episode with a list of the 15 most intelligent animals, and you are going to be very surprised. I think I've already said this before, so just roll with it, and I'll be right back.
Is weird, odd, strange, or just plain bizarre is really your cup of tea? Then the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast will give you that fix. Can't believe it? Well, listen for yourself as we deliver the strangest news you definitely won't find on CNN or Fox. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast.
And welcome back to the GSMC Weird News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Moog. Hi. We're going to get started with tic-tac-toe, my very favorite thing. I might be exaggerating, don't worry about it. We're going to get started with some interesting news from Germany about the United States, brought to you by user Gossip Gal News. How about that, Gossip Gal News? And it goes,
Germany is attempting to collect donations to feed Americans. Just like those you two could feed a child for 20 cents a day, one of those. Check it out.
Kann zu Diabetes, Herzkrankheiten und einer teuren Abhängigkeit vom Staat führen. 49 Millionen Amerikaner leiden unter Lebensmittelunsicherheit. Sie sind hungrig nach mehr als nach der nächsten Mahlzeit.
The richest government on the planet cannot feed, house, clothe, or care for its citizens. This is our place in the world with other industrialized, educated countries. Do you realize how stupid we look?
well, I'm not really worried about looking stupid. I am worried about our inadequacies as a country. That goes for all countries. All right. I guess maybe you should worry about looking stupid when you are doing harm and people are looking at you and going, this person, this place, this thing is causing lots of harm. That's so stupid. That's different. But if you just have your fly down, who cares? We don't have our fly down. Apparently we're starving. I guess that's what's going on. So I'm going to Google it. That's what I like to do. I don't think my little Google speaker can help me, but I'm going to Google it for real. Let's see what I find. Okay, I have Googled it. I've Googled it thoroughly, and I have not come up with anything. I don't know what this woman is talking about. I even Googled her reference, which was ispot.tv. I Googled Germany giving food to USA, Germany donating food. I went to the Feed the Nation Germany. I tried all different combinations. I absolutely do not see anything. If you all can find this, please tell me. You can find me at GSMC_weird or GSMC_weird news at Instagram and Twitter. So please, seriously, what is this woman talking about? I mean, it's an interesting concept. And of course, I don't doubt for a second that we are not providing for our citizens in an appropriate way on multiple levels. Nobody's perfect. We certainly aren't. I do believe there are some countries that are providing for its citizens in a pretty amazing, near perfect way. Okay, not near perfect, but in a very conscientious, responsible way, using their tax money for things that aren't war and military and guns and tanks and Viagra sold to generals in other countries. Oh, there's a man outside of my window right now, kind of flailing his arms and screaming, so you might hear some of that fun. He's wearing an ankle monitor. He has a Monster Energy drink in one hand, a cigarette in the other, and he's screaming on speakerphone on his phone. Cool. This is not made up. You know what? I should post a picture of this on the GSMC Weird News Twitter account. I really should. This is amazing. It's probably illegal to do this, but okay, let's stay on track, guys. The Monster Energy drink guy cannot throw us off track. So I don't know. That was an interesting TikTok. She made an interesting point, but I really tried to Google it and couldn't find it. So I call cap on that. Factor cap. Moving on to our next fun and exciting, thrilling TikTok. Brought to you by Under the Desk News. Let's get started.
The story didn't fit into the news recap, but it is so incredible, I need to tell you about it. There was a car crash on Maryland 90, which is a highway that goes over a bridge. And the impact of the crash was so great that a little girl who was sitting in her car seat in the back seat was ejected from the pickup truck. While still strapped in her car seat, she went over the bridge and fell into the water below. A man who was a few car lengths behind saw this, jumped out of his vehicle, and jumped off the bridge into the water below. It was a 25-foot drop. He then rescues the little girl from her car seat, spots a family on a pontoon boat, swims to the boat with a 2-year-old in his arms, and rescues the little girl. She was able to get medical attention, and it seems like everything's going okay now. The Good Samaritan / superhero doesn't wish to be identified. But how dope is that story? Jumping off a bridge. Incredible.
Wow. That's a Superman story. Or, you know what, that's a Wonder Woman story. I'm not sure if Batman or Superman did those exact kind of things. I think they kind of did. But Wonder Woman 100% did those kinds of things. And I did see 1984, WW 1984, Wonder Woman 1984. Guys, I don't know. I saw it. And that's exactly what she does. She flies into shopping malls and saves little babies. It's exactly what she does. In addition to saving the world, let's not forget that part. I didn't forget. But that's a major Wonder Woman vibe coming off of this savior, this super person. I'm going to Google it, and let's see what I find. All right, and I found a bunch. Let's read the headlines. Good Samaritan jumps into bay to save child after car crash on bridge. Man in car crash who jumped off Ocean City Bridge to save 2-year-old describes blah, blah, blah. Boater rescues man who jumped into bay to save child. Now, that's an interesting take. I've noticed with headlines, and I do this all the time, depending on the way they slant, are they conservative? Are they liberal? Are they more into sensationalized fear tactic news? Are they more into shaping the environment in a positive light or big business in a positive or negative light? So you're going to read 10 different headlines of the same exact thing, and it's just so funny. Heroic car crash witness saves toddler who was ejected into Maryland Bay. Great. And then the other one says, boaters rescue man. So they framed it like that. The most interesting part of the story is that these boaters rescued a man. Life is complicated. Which one shall I choose? I wish this were more interactive so you guys could be like voting for these things. And I apologize. The man in the background is still yelling on his phone with his Monster Energy drink and his ankle monitor, like his federal prison ankle monitor. That's real. Okay, let's see which headline I will choose. Okay, I chose the BaltimoreSun.com because it says he describes the rescue, which means he has been interviewed and he has a say in this. So that's why I chose this one. A 2-year-old girl was thrown from a vehicle in the Assawoman Bay during a 5-vehicle car crash Sunday afternoon. Assawoman, what a name for a bay. She was rescued by Jonathan Bauer, who was driving one of the vehicles snarled in the crash on the Route 90 in Ocean City. Bauer spoke publicly for the first time on Friday. The first thing I remember is hearing tires screech. He was on his way home from his job with his 13-year-old daughter, Ava, in the passenger seat. Bauer watched as a pickup truck seemed to lose control before it spun and hit a concrete barrier and flipped over a guardrail. The truck hit a BMW, he said, propelling it toward his vehicle as he swerved to dodge it. He got out of his car to check the driver of the BMW after she crashed into the vehicle directly behind Bauer's. He then ran over to help a man trying to get out of a truck where it had flipped over the railing, and he was hanging off the side of the bridge, he said. When the man was freed, he didn't say much, only pointing to the water toward a car seat and a little girl in a pink dress floating on her back, kicking and screaming before she rolled and was face down in the water. Bauer threw his legs over the side of the bridge and, quote, just looked over at my daughter and said, grab the first firefighter or police officer you see, and he pushed off. Within seconds of securing the girl and patting her back, she began spitting up, quote, a bunch of water, a lot of water. Speaking during the news conference, Ava remembered looking down at him from the bridge and asking, how are you going to get out of the water? He said, that's a good question, and started laughing, she said. Still, she added tearfully, it was the scariest part of my life, seeing my dad jump off the bridge. Oh my gosh, of course it was. Bauer was picked up by a boat by Joel Ortel and his 14-year-old daughter, Elena. They both have little teenage daughters with A names. Wow, they're soulmates. Joe said he was surprised Bauer wasn't hurt since the water is only a few feet deep in the area where he jumped. Joe is quoted to say, he was jumping into the unknown as well. You know, he saw a baby and just went. That's remarkable. That's a hero there. I guess, is he the only one in this car crash who jumped into the unknown? It's interesting. They make all kinds of people. I know I personally am the type of person that, I'm not saying I would jump into the unknown, but I would definitely be the one person in a crowd who would kind of assertively confront the situation, confront someone in a probably not so smart way, but I just kind of have that personality. I'm just full of personality. So the little girl did not say anything. She was coughing. She was crying. And that was a good sign. The girl was flown to a Baltimore hospital, and an additional 7 people were treated at hospitals and released. Everyone's okay. The crash is under investigation, but they've ruled out alcohol as a cause. So that's great. Good for you. You did it, man. How many of you would jump off of a bridge to save a little girl? I don't think I would. Not because I don't care, and partially because I would be scared, but I don't think I could do it. I don't think I could swim holding a car seat and a girl. I don't think I could do it. And then both of us would die. And if I can't actually pull off the physical requirements of this rescue mission, I don't think I would do it. I hope that in every crowd there is somebody with the physical capabilities to pull off a rescue. I hope. I think it's a pipe dream, but I hope. Let's move on to our final TikTok, and this is one I like to do, things I don't understand, and I just find some lovely people who don't understand some strange things, and we talk about it. So let's start off with user Allison Wellborn, spell A-L-L-Y. Oh, let's go.
There's a lot of stuff that I don't understand. This is probably going to have to be in 2 parts. Number 1, candles. You light a candle and then it melts. Where does the wax go? It just disappears? I don't get that. It doesn't go away. It just disappears. Where did it go? Evaporation. You pour water or a liquid on the ground and then a few hours later it just is not there anymore. Why can't we see it? I can't see it go away. Where did it go? Why did it do that? Why doesn't it just sit there? Why don't other things? I don't know. Money. Why is this one less than this one? It's the same piece of paper in the same shape with different faces on it. I don't get that. Why can't we print more of it? They say that, like, if you print more money, then the value of money goes down. Why we made that up. That's just a rule that we made up. That's just a fake thing. Infinity, why didn't we just say that it ended? Why does it just have to keep going? Why can't we, let's change that.
What? I don't even know if I get the last one. Why can't we just say that it ended? What? What ended? Infinity. So, what is infinity? I'm trying to think of something that's infinity. Besides pi, besides numbers. What is infinity besides numbers? Oh, it's a brand of cars. Oh my god, I have an infinity vehicle. Wow. The eternal flame. I don't know. What's infinity? I don't know. I literally can't think of a single thing that's infinity. Hey, Google, tell me something that's infinity.
According to Wikipedia, infinity represents something that is boundless or endless, or else something that is larger than any real or natural number. Since the time of the ancient Greeks, the philosophical nature of infinity was the subject of many discussions among philosophers.
I think that automatically makes me a philosopher. Okay, so my new name could be Mugrates, Mugrstradamus, or Mugrastotle. Hey, Google, name some famous philosophers.
Saint Thomas Aquinas, Aristotle, Confucius, René Descartes, and Ralph Waldo Emerson.
I feel disappointed by Ralph Waldo Emerson being one of the philosophers because it just doesn't seem like intense enough for me. Although I could be Mugerson. I'm getting carried away. Hey Google, I want an example of something that is infinity.
They say another good example of infinity is the number pi or pi. Do you want a little more context?
No. Okay, so I think the final answer is the only thing infinity is numbers, which leads me to the conclusion that maybe she's right. Because why can't we just end it like if something's 0.333 or 0.9999? They give some examples that I have edited out. But if it is 0.999999 infinity, she's right. Can't we just end that number? Can't we? I don't know why we can't. So what else did she say? Money. I hear that one a lot. Like, why do we print money and then pretend that the value of money has changed because we printed it and it's just a piece of paper that represents a value? Exactly. Yeah, obviously, it's a piece of paper that represents a value. But it's absolutely true that we are making it all up. So if we print more than we're making it up, that the value then changes by printing more. We are truly making that up. The whole financial system is beyond complicated and whacked out. That's my official report. The whole financial situation is whacked out. Back to you, Ken. But then she goes on about candles and evaporation, which is essentially the same thing. So candle wax evaporates and water evaporates. So she's clearly mind blown about evaporation in general, which is no problem. But I do think that water evaporating, it does feel different than wax. Wax to me feels like heavy and sticky and tacky and waxy, and water just feels different. I don't know why. But she's not wrong. Where does the wax go? Because I understand that water becomes part of the clouds and the sky and the whole cycle of precipitation. There's this whole cycle. We learn about it. So I get that water becomes part of that cycle. What about wax? Does wax become part of that cycle? Is there like wax in the sky because we're all burning candles? Oh my god, it has never occurred to me that like we could have millions of pounds of wax in the sky because we burn so many candles and then we're raining down wax. I do know that smokestacks, etc., put smoke and chemicals and dirt in the air and that rains down acid rain. But I wonder if acid rain is also from the evaporation process. Not just the smokestacks. How come I've never thought of this? Have you ever thought of this? Are we raining wax on ourselves because we're burning candles? How does it work? Where does the wax go? Are we breathing it? Yes. No, I think that's been verified that when you burn wax candles that have chemicals in them, you do inhale it and it's some sort of endocrine disrupting effect, and then you maybe get sick at some point after burning candles for 100 years. I think that's all she wrote. I absolutely agree that wax is a confusing thing. Like, where does it go? Is it like water? If it's like water, does it rain on us? What's going on? Yep. Great. We did it. We're going to come back after this with story time featuring my greatest fear, whales. This is going to be the story about Keiko, the Free Willy whale from that movie. Is it Keiko? Keiko? I will look that up. I will know the answer when we return.
The GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
We are back with the GSMC Weird News Podcast. Hello, I am your host, Moog, and we are going to get started with story time featuring Keiko. I did Google it, and this whale's name is Keiko. It was the whale featured in the movie Free Willy. That movie was very popular and famous when I was a, teenager. And I assume that anyone else listening to this podcast doesn't even know who Free Willy or what Free Willy is because you're all youngins and I'm an oldin'. Hi. So we're going to KeikoTheUntoldStory.com and I'm just going to tell you the story because it's a really heartbreaking, amazing, horrific story. God, humans. Am I right? So let's start. It starts with a quote. "No one has told the story we're telling," says filmmaker Teresa Demarest of her inspiring new documentary that finally solves the mystery of what really happened during the last 5 years of Keiko's extraordinary life. The first in-depth cinematic look at the life and legend of the Free Willy star. Keiko the Untold Story goes behind the scenes of the controversial release in 1998 of the first and only orca released into the wild after being held for years in a captivity. Indeed, 7 years after the famed orca's death in December 2003, the question of whether or not the mission was successful continues to fuel the debate regarding the fate of the other 42 orcas still in captivity in the U.S., Argentina, Canada, France, Japan, and Spain. 4 years in the making, Keiko the Untold Story presents never-before-seen footage of his life in the wild, much of it filmed by Jean-Michel Cousteau's Ocean Futures Society, and exclusive accounts of his day-to-day existence by his last two caretakers, Colin Baird and Toba Valdez. From Mark Berman of the Free Willy Keiko Foundation and orca experts Dr. Naomi Rose, senior scientist for Humane Society International, and Orca Lab founder Dr. Paul Spong, a neuroscientist and cytologist who has been at the forefront of orca research since 1967, we also gain new insights into the unique culture of orcas and what the impact of being taken from his pod at such a young age had on Keiko's ability to survive on his own. Keiko, whose name means lucky one. God. Wow. What a slap in the face to name a captive whale Lucky. Wow. Ooh, the audacity. Okay. Which means Lucky One became exactly that when he was picked to star in the Warner Brothers film Free Willy about a troubled boy who befriends an ailing whale, then helps him escape a death plot hatched by the aquarium owner. Giving an astonishing performance, Keiko swam straight into the hearts of millions of school children around the world upon the film's debut in July 1993. However, it was quite a jolt when his fans discovered that, unlike his fictional counterpart, Keiko was not free. Even worse, his health was steadily deteriorating after 11 years of painful confinement in a tank designed for bottlenose dolphins, located over 200 miles from the nearest ocean. When they first took him to Mexico City, they thought everything was fine, but he kept growing. By the time Warner Brothers made the movie, Keiko had gone from the size of a puppy to a bull mastiff in a doghouse that was built for a beagle. The tank was like a swimming pool holding an orca. He couldn't dive at all, he was so long and it was so shallow that when he was simply floating, his tail nearly touched the bottom. Accustomed to the icy waters of the North Atlantic, Keiko was also suffering from the constant exposure to temperatures well above what his species normally tolerated. They were filling it with just tap water, which was heavily chlorinated, plus there were no chillers. Orcas live in water that's 40 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. They had to continually bring in bags of salt and just dump it in to try to make it similar to the ocean, which of course is impossible. There's all kinds of nutrients in the ocean. The public was so outraged that Dave Phillips, founder of the Earth Island Institute, told PBS, "Frontline, we have more than 400,000 phone calls, which was unbelievable, unprecedented. The switchboards completely lit up. We had phone services operating 24 hours a day with kids calling in and parents calling in. Everybody wanted to get involved. What could they do for whales and what could they do for Keiko? As the outcry mounted, representatives from various organizations, including Philip Sperman and Dr. Rose, met with the owners of the Reino Aventura theme park in Mexico City where Keiko was confined. They explored every possibility, including moving him to another aquarium. None were willing to take him due to the mysterious skin disease Keiko had developed, which members of the captive industry feared would spread to other orcas in their parks. When the operation was suggested to return Keiko to his natural habitat, Warner Brothers approached the Earth Island Institute to serve as the orca's custodian. Since orcas had not been a part of the mission, Phillips was at first hesitant. Quote, "The way we made the decision was we just listened to all the power of what the kids wanted to do. There were just so many people in all aspects, kids and teachers and scientists and businesses, environmental organizations that all got caught up in it and all wanted to do something for the whale. He had touched such a responsive chord in people that it just seemed like the barriers could be broken down, and it just became hard not to get involved." Making it possible, Reino Aventura, which had originally paid $350,000 for Keiko, donated the whale to the newly founded Free Willy Keiko Foundation, formed by the Earth Island Institute. At the time, the Oregon Coast Aquarium agreed to build a new state-of-the-art facility to serve as a way station of sorts to allow Keiko to regain his health before returning to the wild. When the new tank was completed, Keiko was airlifted in January 1996 to his new home in Oregon, in a plane donated by the United Postal Service, UPS. His journey was complete when a U.S. Air Force C-17 transport jet flew Keiko to Klettsvik Bay in Vestmannaeyjar, Iceland, where he had been captured 19 years before. This had never been done before. There was no textbook, no manual on how to do this, so we just did it based on what Keiko wanted to do. We were giving him a chance that no other captive orca has ever had, to go home to his family, to the sea, to feel the tides, to the natural beauty of his home country. For Keiko's millions of fans, it was the happy ending they had helped fund, yet the effort had its detractors. Among them, there were newspapers calling it a complete failure, because Keiko never found his family. Nobody considered the possibility that maybe his family had died during his capture, or that they might have been merely passing through that part of Iceland when he was taken. Given what we as humans had done to him over the years, I think it's really important that we get the full story out there. That's a quote from Colin Baird, who directed the Icelandic field operation during its last 2 years, and had previously spent a decade training orcas. Quote, "It's amazing how people just don't know how it ended. I'd heard all sorts of misinformation, before, during, and after the project. I've long said this project succeeded in so many ways. It succeeded in getting him out of Mexico. If he never left Oregon, the project was already a success. Getting him to Iceland, into the big, huge basin, if he never left the basin, it would have been a huge success already. And then, for him to swim across the Atlantic and spend the last year of his life out in the wild, you can't tell me it wasn't anything but a success." Well, I guess we can't tell him anything, because I guess he doesn't care what the actual facts point to, because one man's opinion is not fact. I don't know whose opinion is fact, but I don't like that he's like, you can't tell me it was anything but a success. Get over it. If it wasn't a success, get over it. Anyway, the Humane Society's Dr. Rose, who helped negotiate Keiko's freedom into the mid-1990s, is frequently featured as a guest expert on shows like Larry King Live, R.I.P., CNN News, ABC World News, and ABC's Nightline. Quote, "There were so many people who fell in love with Keiko, and I think it's really unfortunate that they don't know what really happened to him. Keiko was the only captive orca who was ever returned to his natural habitat, the only captured orca ever to go home. It's true he did not swim off gallantly into the sunset and become a wild whale again, which is what we were hoping. But it was always a long shot because Keiko wasn't necessarily the best candidate for a full return to the wild. So we established in the project from the outset that we had him wear a tag so that if in fact he did reintegrate with a wild pod, we would know where he was. We would be able to go and respond to whatever it was he needed. And that's exactly what happened. Rose is convinced that Keiko would have died in Mexico City within a year or two had he been left there. I know that we lengthened his life beyond Oregon. In Mexico City, I think he would have had 1 or 2.5 years left. I think there is so much distortion about what happened to Keiko that it's important for people to understand exactly what really happened to him. And what really happened to him amounts to a great story. It's very clear that orcas are not suited to a life in captivity, that this is a terrible thing to be doing to this incredible whale. Keiko never met his family, and his success was ultimately limited, but I do believe he achieved amazing things given where he came from. Indeed, a part of Keiko's enduring legacy, adds Spong, are the restrictions preventing the capture of orcas in many places around the world, where 9 of the 42 remaining in captivity were originally caught. Among them, captures in Iceland stopped, and it's virtually certain they won't start up again. Toba Valdez, looking back on the 2 years she spent working with Keiko, calls him, quote, an unbelievable animal. He absolutely had a definite personality. I spent a lot of time alone with him, and I talked and talked and talked to him. He would just kind of dance in the water. She pauses. Now you've got me started. I could talk forever about this whale. And that's the article. That's all she wrote. I'm obsessed with whales because, number one, I'm super afraid of them. And it's not like I'm afraid of the whale. The closest thing that describes what I have is called thalassophobia, which is a fear of underwater things. And not the thing, the way the thing looks, I believe. Like, you're not actually afraid of the whale. You're afraid of the visual. How crazy is that? Like, people who are afraid of snakes are afraid of getting bitten or killed by a snake. They're not afraid of looking at a snake, I don't think. Are they? Maybe they are. Maybe that's how phobias work. They don't really make sense. But my fear is of underwater things, and it's mainly around whales. And I've noticed the same fear happens in space. So I think my fear is the fear of dark space surrounding something. So if it's a spaceship or it's a whale, it's, you know, it doesn't happen with fish. Like if I see a school of fish underwater, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen, I think, if I see a seal. But maybe it just, I think it really depends on the background, like the scary water in the background. And I'm not afraid of water. So you guys are so fascinated, aren't you, that I have thalassophobia. Anyway, the funny thing about my kind of obsession with orcas, I am so afraid of the visual of them. I'm not afraid of them. I'm afraid of the visual. But yet I still watch orca videos. I watched Blackfish, and I am not exaggerating when I thought about it, and I cried actual tears of crying for like 2 weeks after watching Blackfish, just thinking about how awful their lives are, how high their intelligence are, how close their family units are, and how complex their family structure is. The fact that when you take a calf away from a mom orca, she will call and call for it for like 2 years and become so depressed she won't swim. That's just insane. It's just insane. I feel like when you take a cow's calf away, they get really, really upset and they cry for like a week. But the whales will cry for like a year. I don't know how long. Watch Blackfish, they'll tell you. This is not an advertisement for Blackfish, but maybe it should be. I'm pretty into, and also at the same time completely afraid of whales. It's a very strange dichotomy that I'm dealing with. If you watch Blackfish, be prepared to cry for 2 weeks. I wasn't crying every day for 2 weeks or every minute for 2 weeks. It was just on and off for 2 weeks. It's overwhelmingly horrific when you really see the real story of what whales are like and what we do to them. It's unreasonable. Most of what we do to the animal kingdom, the earth, etc., is pretty unreasonable. But hey, we do it anyway, don't we? Yeah, cool. I know I went to a SeaWorld show when I was a kid. Only now do I realize how heinous that is. What was going on in the 90s? Did we just have no clue that we were heinous AF? Did we not? Wow. I mean, right now, we're heinous, and in 10 years, 20 years, we'll be like, what were we doing wearing mom jeans and ugly white sneakers? Why did we do that? And like right now, we just think we're so cute. I know I think I'm cute, and my dog agrees. He's into me. Who am I kidding? My dog is not into me. He likes everyone but me. There's something definitely wrong with an owner whose dog does not like them the best out of everyone. I don't want to talk about it. He just likes other people. It's a social butterfly. Wants to kiss everyone but me. This is getting really personal, you guys. I think I need to talk to my therapist about this. Okay, when we come back, we're going to be talking about the smartest animals ranked. And guess what is number one? Is it humans? Probably. Are we animals? Absolutely. But of course, we're not on this list, so you gotta come back. Maybe, spoiler alert, it's orangutans. Orangutans? Who knows? We'll be back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And welcome back to the GSMC Weird News Podcast. I'm your host, Moog. So we were talking about all kinds of stuff. What were we talking about? Who remembers? You get a point if you remember. No, you don't. We were talking about Keiko. That was amazing. Heartbreaking. Everything. And let's not forget cribs. Seals with eels. Seals with eels. Okay. We are moving on to our final portion of the show. Don't get sad, because there's always next week. And there's always my other hosts, Mark and Mitchell. Love you guys, even though I've never met you. So, moving on, we are going to start off with the 15 smartest animals. Are you going to be surprised? I think you are. I bet some of them you could guess. But because I am nice, I am not going to make you wait, and I'm just going to say them all in a row, and then backtrack and get into the nitty-gritty of it. So, coming in at number 15, can you guess? Is it the rat? Is it the pigeon? Is it your sister? I don't know. Okay, I do know. It's ants. Ants coming in at number 15. I guess they're an animal, quote. What isn't an animal? I guess an insect is an animal. Is an ant an insect? I assume it is. Number 14, the Portia labiata jumping spider. Terrifying. A super intelligent spider is terrifying. Number 13, no surprise at all, dogs. The only thing surprising about it is that they're so low on the list. 12, pigeon. Wow, I really did not realize how smart pigeons were. 11, veined octopus. What about octopuses without veins? Who knows? 10, raccoon. That seems to check out. 9, squirrel. That means they're smarter than raccoons. I'm shook. Did not realize. Absolutely did not realize. All right, 8, rat. Smarties. That's why when Armageddon comes and the world is over, the rats still are here. 7, pig. Yeah, that seems right. 6, African gray parrot. So that's smarter than a pig. I guess, yeah, they do say that birds are smarter than we think. And smarter than an African gray parrot is 5, a crow. 4, elephant. They always say they have a good memory. 3, chimpanzee. 2, bottlenose dolphin. Yep. And 1, what's it going to be? I don't even know yet. Okay, I lied. I do. Orangutan. Orangutan is smarter than a dolphin and a chimpanzee and an elephant. Yeah. Okay. So let's get into it. Starting with the orangutan. As my Auntie Lorraine would say, she is from Malaysia and she probably pronounces it the correct way. Orangutan. Orangutans are considered to be the smartest of primates over chimps. They have been taught to saw wood, use a hammer, to nail structures together, and even siphon liquids through a hose. What? That is smarter than the average 10-year-old. Okay, but what? While that could be simply marked up to rote training, what makes an orangutan smart is its ability to understand why we complete these actions and use them in the wild when they might be helpful. That is a very good point. So they then can transfer that skill into a situation where it is transferable. They can apply it to future situations, and that absolutely does make them so super smart. Okay, so for example, an orangutan was taught how to build a simple protective structure using tools available in the wild, and when it was released from captivity, the orangutan was observed building the same structure to get out of the rain. Mind blown. Bottlenose dolphin, number 2. They possess advanced language and comprehension skills, and they are able to understand sign gestures and general words like ball. They can refer to sets of objects with similar characteristics. I suppose that means something like a Chihuahua and a Great Dane. They can recognize both as being dogs. Is that what that means? I'm amazed. They get numerical concepts. They're able to understand and react to questions about objects outside of their immediate vicinity. I don't even know if I can do that. They process information received both acoustically and visually, allowing them to recognize scenes presented on a television screen, something chimps must be trained to do. That is something I have never considered, that when you look at a screen, you understand that you are looking at something outside of your environment. Wow, that does take a higher intelligence. Why have I never thought of this? Okay, dolphins understand pointing like dogs, and chimps have a hard time with that. So, considering dolphins don't have arms, this ability is perhaps all the more amazing. And I did not think of that either, that because they don't have arms, they have no frame of reference for what an arm might be engaging in. That's so true. Dolphins are blowing my mind, but I think all of these animals are going to, so I should stop saying that and get used to it. So dolphins seem to demonstrate self-awareness with mirrors. They can recognize and inspect marks placed inconspicuously on their bodies, like elephants can. Dolphins demonstrate problem solving and tool use by picking up the habit of swimming with sea sponges on their snouts, which armor them against the prick of spiny fish. In one study, they were found to be capable of choosing an I don't know option during a difficult test. I want that option during a difficult test. I think it's just called not answering the question. But what an interesting thing that a bottlenose dolphin can comprehend the level of self-awareness to know that they don't know something? What? Okay, when the dolphins selected that option, they were likely considering their own thought process, which indicates the cognitive concept known as metacognition, which some consider an indicator of self-awareness and higher consciousness. Metacognition. So I guess that's, what is that? Self-awareness. What else is that? I feel like there's another word for that. Okay, I got it. Sentient. So they're sentient? What? I'm learning just as much as you all are right now. So I thought humans were the only sentient beings. I am very wrong, apparently. And I have to rethink, what does sentient even mean? Okay. I'm having deep thoughts. Are you guys? You don't care. You're like, whatever. Tell me more. Okay, whatever. I will tell you more. Chimpanzees is number 3, and they perform cognitive and creative tasks and have a better memory than any other animal. Are humans animals? Does that include us? A better memory than any other animal, but they are below dolphins because of what we said before. So they have been observed using advanced knowledge of tools, building what they need from what they have in creative and adaptive ways. And NASA, hire these guys. You know the thing that NASA does where they have exactly what the astronauts have in their astronaut ship, spaceship. And I think I'm getting this from a movie, but it has to be true because come on. So they have exactly what the astronauts have on hand. And when they need to solve a problem, they use exactly those things, figure it out, and then tell the astronauts what to do. And I like to think that that's exactly what the chimps are doing. Chimps are astronauts. You learned it here. Okay, and they've shown the ability in thinking ahead by using tactical attack maneuvers, such as flanking their prey. Really? I feel like many predators or hunters do that. Maybe I just don't understand. I thought many did. So in 2006, scientists showed that chimps share 98% of the same genetic DNA as humans. But I also heard that strawberries share 98% of the same DNA as fish, which means essentially that the DNA structure is apparently very close with tiny infinitesimal differences between them. Because guess what? We all live on planet Earth, and unless we're like aliens, we literally have similar DNA because we're all of Earth. I don't know if that's true. I think I got that from like a t-shirt or an article in college in like 1974 when I was in college. Okay, that's a lie. I think I'm so funny. Old people jokes. All right. So recently, chimpanzees have been seen using teaching sign language to their infants without human interference. Amazing. Truly amazing, really. Okay, elephant 4. Incredibly intelligent, incredibly large brains, and their brain dwarfs the size of other mammals, and they've created the most complicated social structure in the animal kingdom. I thought that was Keiko. I thought that was like orcas and whales, but I guess not. I've been proven wrong. So apparently one sign of intelligence is essentially altruism, which means an animal's sacrifice for the good of the whole kind of thing, which is like, Professor Nash got famous for that. And yes, of course, I'm going off of a movie, once again, not actual research. So they're as smart as Professor Nash, who changed economics as we know it. Perfect. So it's about altruism. And they know that the good of the whole impacts each individual elephant the best. They're famous for this altruism. They are famous for protecting their young. And they're also known to medicate themselves when sick by chewing the leaves of specific trees, depending on their illness. Y'all, elephants are doctors. They're medicine people. What? Elephants are blowing the mind. They bury their dead in a ritualistic way, the only other species on Earth to do so, besides humans. They are very playful, which helps them develop dexterity and special reasoning somehow. They have nimble trunks. They can be used to manipulate tools, including paintbrushes. Did you guys know that? I guess I've seen little vignettes about them doing that. They've been trained in the use of creating remarkable pieces of art. They can recognize themselves in mirrors, which seems to be a theme of intelligence, which means I'm super smart, guys, because I know almost every single time it's me. But not every single time, admittedly. Sometimes I think I'm looking at an amazing bikini model, but it turns out it's just me, so that's always surprising. Happens a lot, obviously. Crows, number 5. They are the smartest of all birds. Wow, they top the avian IQ because they can be taught to count and differentiate between complex shapes. Like little babies are like triangle, square, and the crows are doing that too. They carry out observational learning tasks. They have been found to create knives to cut leaves and stalks of grass. Crows wielding knives is just about the most terrifying thing I have ever heard. I used to run around Green Lake in Seattle and spend time there, and there was a certain time of year where the crows would dive bomb you and I think get away from their nests. They probably have young. And now imagine adding knives to being dive bombed by crows. No thanks, I don't want to imagine. This is terrifying. They make knives and then use them. Oh my God. Hats off to you, crows. That's where I'll end it there. So they throw clams and nuts and shells on the road and wait for passing cars to run them over, to break them open. And this kind of creative thinking is a hallmark of intelligence. So, wow. They have complex social behaviors too, and they have been observed acting in concert to perform complex tasks, such as theft, employing lookouts and decoys. Damn, crows. Yes. Yes, crows. And we're going to skip ahead because I want to talk about some animals more than others. I've recently become obsessed with octopuses because many of us have recently watched the documentary, My Octopus Teacher, and it seriously changed my perspective on cephalopods. Really, truly. I almost saw that particular octopus as being sentient almost. It was like a puppy. It was truly remarkable to me personally to watch My Octopus Teacher. So they are considered remarkably smart. The octopus is considered the smartest invertebrate alive. They are masters of mimicry and camouflage. They should get together with the crows and do crimes. They are professional escape artists, see, but they don't make very good pets or zoo attractions because they're too smart. They break out, they get into trouble. In Santa Monica recently, in the aquarium there, one broke out and flooded the entire aquarium with hundreds of gallons of water, because they turned a valve. And they knew what they were doing. They didn't just get out of the tank and play around. They knew what they were doing. They have, to me, the kind of mind and behavior of actual people. Really. But that's just me. So there's dogs and pigeons, which is boring, but ants, that's interesting to me. I'm surprised bees aren't on here. Oh my gosh, I have so much to talk about with bees. As you know, I'm kind of obsessed with bees because I talked about it earlier, so I'm surprised that bees are not on this list, but maybe bees are not on this list because they're more of like pieces of a robot all together working in harmony, and it's not, quote, intelligence, it's more like instinct perhaps. So ants. They are suggested to be the smartest insect on the planet. They have the largest brain mass of all insects. They are methodical, strategic. They know how to send scouts out for food. Okay, bees know how to send scouts out and find them a new hive. They can direct traffic better than any streetlight or cop. I guess just with each other. I don't think we can trust an ant to really direct human traffic. Everyone calm down. So they're extremely territorial, and they will not hesitate to let invaders know that. So yeah, there are so many different kinds of ants. I wonder how much it varies between all the species. There must be hundreds of different kinds of ants. Well, let's ask Google. How many different kinds of ants are there? I just looked on my phone, not on our friend Google, and she said thousands. Final answer, thousands. Okay, moving on. So they know how to adapt to a changing environment or to change the environment to suit their needs. That's very human-like. So we are out of time, and this is where I tell you thank you for listening to the GSMC Weird News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I have been your host, Moog. You can find us at GSMC_Weird News on Instagram, or on Twitter at GSMC_Weird. You can find me, Moog, at GoCamelToe on TikTok or Instagram. If you enjoyed the show, you can leave a review for us wherever you listen to podcasts. All right, guys, I will see you next week.